So this is the 2016 FRQ. It's much like the 27 FRQ. Let's go ahead and get right to it. It says, assume the United States economy is currently in a short run equilibrium. Remember, short run just basically is nothingness. It's just, hey, this is where we are. You can ignore that. With actual unemployment rate above the natural rate. So if our actual unemployment rate is above the natural rate, means that we are in a recession. So you got to draw this in a recession. Part A is asking us to draw a recession using the Phillips curve, just like the question 2017. So this is going to be typically a 2-point question. You get 1 point for drawing the graph. Remember, vertical is inflation rate, horizontal is unemployment rate. You have that vertical long run Phillips curve, which represents the natural rate of unemployment, around that 4% or so. And if we have a recession, it means we have our actual level of unemployment that is going to be greater. So this would be something greater than that 4% level right there, and you get 2 points for that. We'll go ahead and move on to part B. It says, assuming no policy actions are taken. Remember, if no policy actions are taken, eventually the economy always comes back to equilibrium. The reason why we will come back to equilibrium in a recession, that means that wages are going to be low. Workers are willing to work for lower wages in a recession. They're just thankful that they actually have a job. So with lower wages comes a lower cost of production. When there's a lower cost of production, that means aggregate supply will increase. It's cheaper to make things. So we will make more. We will supply more. As aggregate supply increases, that means real GDP increases. As real GDP increases, unemployment goes down. There's an inverse relationship between real GDP and unemployment. So as recession leads to lower wages, leads to lower cost production, aggregate supply increases, real GDP increases, unemployment will then decrease. If unemployment decreases, if there's a decrease in unemployment, decrease is a down or a left of unemployment, that means there's going to be a left of the short run Phillips curve. AS moves the Phillips curve. AD would move the dot along the Phillips curve, but AS moves the entire curve. AS moves that entire curve. All right, part C. If the Federal Reserve Bank wants to lower unemployment, what expansion open market operation should it use? Remember, the only thing you can do on the open market is buy or sell those bonds. So if we want to lower unemployment, if we want to grow the economy, if we want to expand the economy, the Federal Reserve should buy bonds. A straight flowchart question. Make sure you know that flowchart. Part D, how will the open market operation you identified in Part C affect each of the following? Federal funds rate, explain, and real interest rates in the short run, explain. So you're going to see that as you buy bonds, the money supply increases, and if there's an increase in the money supply, that means banks are going to have an increase of their reserves, and therefore when they have that extra money there in their banks, they're going to be able to decrease the federal funds rate. The federal funds rate is that interest rate that banks charge each other for short overnight loans. Well, if banks have an increase of their money supply because of increased reserves, they don't need to charge each other as much to borrow the money. Next point here is earned for saying that the real interest rates will decrease in the short run. With that overall increase of money supply, you are going to see a drop in those interest rates. You can check that from the flowchart there. Part E, given your answer in part D2, so real interest rates dropping, what is the effect on real GDP in the short run? I explained. Again, this is a straight flowchart question. As interest rates go down, it's going to be cheaper to borrow that money. So more people will borrow and spend. Businesses will borrow and spend and increase aggregate demand. You're going to see that real interest rates, and for explaining that, the decrease in real interest rates will increase interest-sensitive spending, which is essentially your C, your consumption, and your I sub G, your investment in plant and equipment, and those are components of aggregate demand. So as consumption and investment increase, that means aggregate demand will also increase. F, Japan and the United States are major trading partners. Indicate how the change in real GDP you identified in Part E will affect the demand of the Japanese yen in the foreign exchange market. So we are now wealthier. We have more real GDP. Because we have more real GDP, that means we also have more real income. We are buying more stuff. If we are buying more stuff, some of the things that we buy and we have more income, some of those things that we will buy will come from Japan. So in order to buy those things from Japan, we are going to have to demand the Japanese yen. So the demand for the Japanese yen will increase because we're wealthier, because we have more real GDP. We're going to buy a few more imports. So I guess in G here, they're asking us to graph this. And as you demand more of something, demanding more of that Japanese yen, I'm guessing they're going to ask, how does it impact the value of currency? So let's see here. Draw a correct level graph of the foreign exchange market for the Japanese yen, showing the effects of the change in the demand in Part F on the value of the Japanese yen relative to the United States dollar. Oh, okay. So yeah, you're seeing that we're demanding more yen. And as you demand more yen, this is in terms of the Japanese yen will appreciate, and for comparison purposes, the US dollar will depreciate. Moving on. All right, so we got a banking system question here. It says, what is the dollar value of new loans that First Superior Bank can make? Explain. Assume that the reserve ratio is 10%. Okay, so remember, you are only required to hold on to a percentage of the deposits. So we're required to hold on to 10% of this deposit of 2,000. So 10% of 2,000 is just going to be 200. Okay. That's as much as you have in reserves. You don't have any excess reserves. You have exactly what you have to hold on to. You don't have any excess. If you had more than 200, then you'd be able to loan some of that out. But you don't. You have exactly 200, so you don't have any excess. And because we do not have any excess, the bank is already fully loaned up. It can't make any more loans. There are 0 new loans, are 0. Can't lend out anymore. All right, let's take a look at Part B. It says Mr. Smith deposits $100 of cash in the demand deposit account. Okay, so we now have $100 jumping in there. Calculate the maximum amount of new loans that First Superior can now make. Okay, so if $100 gets deposited into the bank and the bank is required to hold on to 10%, that means the bank has to hold on to $10, which means the remaining $90 is excess. They can lend out all $90. So that excess reserve is going to be 90 there. So the bank can lend out $90, and that is because they have to hold on to just 10% or $10. As a result of Mr. Smith's $100 cash deposit, calculate the maximum change over time in each of the following in the banking system: loans and then demand deposits. Okay, so loans. Whenever you see that phrase, banking system, that's your clue to use the formula. They're not talking about one bank. You know, for one bank, one bank can lend out $90, but the banking system is going to be that 90 times the money multiplier. Remember, the money multiplier is 1 over the reserve requirement. So that $90 are the excess reserves times 1 over 0.1 is going to get you 900. 1 point is earned for correctly calculating the excess reserves of 90 times 1 over 0.1 to get you 900. Now for demand deposits, the max amount of change in the banking system for demand deposits, that formula is nothing more than change in deposits, which was $100, times 1 over the reserve requirement. So 100 times 1 over 0.1 gets you 1,000. The difference here for loans was your excess reserves times 1 over the reserve requirement. And for this one, it's your deposit times 1 over the reserve requirement. So over here, the excess was 90. Over here, the deposit was 100. That's why we have the difference between being 900 as your answer and 1,000 being your answer. Part D, as a result of Mr. Smith's $100 cash deposit, calculate the maximum change over time in the money supply. So the money supply and max new money created is the same formula as the excess reserves times 1 of the reserve requirement. It is the same exact thing. When loans are issued, money is created. It's going to be the same exact number here. It's going to be that 900. Lastly, part E, provide one reason why the actual change in the money supply can be smaller than the maximum change you identified in part D. So what's going to stop the money supply from growing to $900? People might not redeposit all of their money, or the banks might not lend all that money out. If the second person getting their loan wants to get a loan and the bank says, you know what, we're not going to lend it to you. Instead, we're going to use that money to buy bonds with, then the money's not going to get lent out, and we don't see this $900 being created. Let's move on here. Question number 3. So who has the absolute advantage in producing donuts? Remember, absolute advantage is simply whoever can make more. So who can make more donuts? We got John and Erica. John can make more donuts. Why? Because 200 is greater than 150. That's an easy one for you. So they're just asking, do you understand what absolute advantage is? The next question here is who has the comparative advantage in producing donuts? Comparative advantage is whoever can produce at the lower opportunity cost. So to look at John and Erica here, John, for every donut that they're making, you can compare this over to the cupcakes and see here that the ratio is 1 donut to half a cupcake, and then for Erica, it's a third of a donut to 1 cupcake. Or if you want to put it in terms of cupcakes, 1 cupcake to 3 donuts, and then 1 cupcake to 2 donuts. All we're doing for comparative advantage here is just trying to determine who can produce the item while giving up less. Remember, whatever someone has a comparative advantage in, the other person will have the comparative advantage in the other item. So we can take a look at here. Sorry, forgot to show you the scoring guideline here. And show you that Erica has the comparative advantage in producing the donuts. And we explained that Erica's opportunity cost of producing 1 donut was just a third of a cupcake, and that John's opportunity cost of a donut was half of a cupcake. So whoever had to give up less had the comparative advantage. So we said that a third is less than a half. Assume that John and Erica decide to specialize according to their comparative advantages, and that 1 cupcake is exchanged for 4 donuts. So we explained that Erica is going to make those donuts here. So if Erica is making the donuts and we are trading 1 cupcake for 4 donuts, well, Erica on her own only has to give up 3 donuts to get a cupcake. So by trading away 4 donuts to get a cupcake, that doesn't really seem very beneficial for Erica. John, on the other hand, who is making the cupcakes, he can trade away 100 cupcakes and get 400 donuts. That does seem pretty beneficial to John. So 1 point is earned for indicating that John will benefit, and a point for saying that Erica will not benefit. Lastly, assume that Erica discovers a new cupcake production technique that will increase her daily production of cupcakes only. So cupcakes only, you can make more cupcakes using donuts on the horizontal axis. Go ahead and show this. So donuts are on the horizontal axis. She can make more cupcakes. So donuts is going to be the same, but now she has the ability to make more cupcakes, so to be something greater than that 50 amount. That's why the whole production possibilities curve shifts upward and outward, but donuts does not change. All right, there's the quick review of the 2016 question. Hopefully that helped. All right, take care, guys.